Shalom, Vracha. My name is Jonathan Goldschmidt. I'm a Torah teacher and I'm currently in beautiful Cape Town in South Africa. And I was asked to produce a series of short lectures on the subject of Niddah for an audience who would be hearing about it maybe for the first time, and to try and shed light upon it. It's a very sensitive subject matter because it deals with the most private areas of our life, and as men, very often it's something that happens outside of our das. It's something that really that our wives are going through, that we have a supportive and crucial element within, but it's not something that we necessarily directly have hands-on effect with, unlike other mitzvahs. I will be splitting up the shirim into first this an introduction, and then I was planning on doing the actual science and of the decot of the checking and how the clean days and counting days work on the next lecture. First of all of these laws are drawn from the book of Leviticus, which donates all these different kinds of bodily impurities that could come out, whether that be a zav, which is some kind of gonorrheal emission, or a niddah, which is a menstrual emission, or an unknown emission. All these things carry a level of impurity, and it meant that people had to be separated from the camp. They had to go through a purification process, wait 7 days, go to mikveh, and then return to the people. Now, the actual laws of Niddah are derived from the fact of where they're placed in the Torah, but they're not openly discussed in terms of the actual halachas of the entire sugya that we use the oral law to drosh from. And that's why it's so important to have a kala teacher, or to have a rabbi who you can sit and learn these matters with properly, especially if you're getting married or if you're converting and are already married, and will have to take on these laws. There's a great deal that changes within the nature of a halakhic marriage, where men and women are separated for 7 days, and then an additional 5 to 7 days of the month. It ends up being about 2 weeks of the month on a normal cycle that men and women cannot have physical contact, even though that they're married. It's something that people need to consider when they're choosing Judaism, as it's a fundamental of our faith. The Niddah, Shabbat, and Kashrut are really the foundation, the building blocks that define us as a people, and they change the relationship that we have with our wives. We're not just lovers, we're also holy friends. We're also havrusas. I have the pleasure of learning with my wife and learning from my wife when we're in our time, because we spend time together, we go for drives, we sit and have coffee, we work on our relationship, and we have a very different marriage and different relationship to, I think, anybody outside the 4 amos of halacha, and I'm sure you'll be blessed too as well. The interesting thing about Niddah is that it is also a dioraisa mitzvah. The Shulchan Aruch is going to relate that it comes with the sin of kores, spiritual excitation for those people who break it, that it doesn't matter how long a woman has not seen a menstrual flow for, or how long it's been since she's been to the mikveh. If she's had a flow, she needs to go through this purification process. So it even applies to sometimes to elderly people, and sometimes is very much affected by pregnancy and by nursing and by various states and hormonal fluxes that women go through that affects their cycle deeply. Also what they eat, stress levels. It's something that is as much a living halacha as Shabbat, and it's something that we need to be familiar with as Orthodox Jews. I feel that one of the key problems that happen in marriages, and I've seen in my own and in others that I've counseled, is that the separation time for men and women is extremely difficult. For men physically, because during this time they must be shomer brit, they must abstain from looking at things they mustn't look at. They must guard themselves and guard their purity and work on their relationship with their wives and with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. There's a tendency for couples to feel distant and to argue and to not be able to reach out and hold the person in a time of need. These things are difficult. They're not simple matters. But with the right mindset that this is something that we're doing l'shem shamayim, that we're doing to serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu, it becomes a beautiful thing. It becomes a way to serve our wives and not to rule over them. It requires being inventive. There's ways to be incredibly romantic and beautiful to our wives without resorting to touch, with gifts, with notes, with acts of affection, with picking up the kids from school, with making her coffee just right and serving it to her in the morning and greeting her with a smile and being a mensch. There's more than one way to be romantic and more than one way for a marriage to be structured. And it seems that the laws of Niddah are so appropriate for our mindset of having to deal with the Western paradigm of people becoming bored in their marriages. People don't become bored in Niddah because you're always this separation, this longing to come back to each other that you don't have in a secular relationship. There's also the fact that women go to mikveh, which is the final stage of the purification process for them, and that for them is a very deep and special and holy thing. And men can be very helpful in terms of allowing mummy to have the time she needs to get showered and get prepared and be able to look after the kids and feed and bath them, to make an atmosphere special for the actual night of returning to each other, so that it's like a wedding night each month. There's a special renewal that happens where you celebrate the longing to be with each other. And this takes our physical relations from a very animalistic place where everybody knows that a man lives with his wife, what they do, to a very special sacred place where the time together becomes like a Shabbat. There's an oineg, there's a delight in delighting with each other. There's a delight in seeing each other and holding each other for the first time. It happens to be that in this area, very often couples need counseling or help in order to communicate with each other better, to express what they need from each other. And the separation time is the perfect time to separate the touch so that the souls can come closer together, so that the other partner can say, I really need this, or, it really frustrates me when we do this and you act this way. And you can't just push it off with a hug and say, it'll be okay, darling. You actually have to sit and discuss and get through your issues. And that's such a blessing to Am Yisrael. And I think it's the reason that we have, on the whole, happier marriages, is because we have this invested time of talking to each other, reading to each other, learning with each other, doing things together, going shopping with each other, where we have to sort of work it so you can't take the item directly from your wife, as we'll go through the laws and you'll see the strictness of it. So we sort of invent ways to take the items from your wife at the supermarket and make a sort of a game out of it and enjoy it like all mitzvahs. They're all beautiful and special, and this is no different. Another sort of introductory idea I would give to the idea of Niddah, and the reason I'll close with for this video, is that people find it very strange that God requires this aspect of ourselves even in the bedroom. In Judaism and in Torah, our God is a God who cares what sandwich we eat. He cares about his children so deeply and so critically. He doesn't want us to damage our neshamot. He wants us to elevate our souls and to enjoy our lives in a deep and spiritually pure way that doesn't tarnish ourselves and ruin our marriages and destroy our children. It uplifts us. And so in the same way that marriage with your aunt is forbidden by the Torah. Homosexuality is forbidden by the Torah. Your wife is forbidden to you half the month by the Torah. It's not so much that these acts are immoral in of themselves without the Torah's definition of telling you so. It's just that we've taken on a Torah paradigm where Hashem instructs us what our sexuality should be and what the confines of the relationships are. And in a Jewish marriage, this is defined by the ketubah, the marriage document that ensures that a man has to look after his wife physically, spiritually, and sexually. Her needs have to be taken care of. And the wife has a reciprocal role in fulfilling the man's desires and in building a home for him and hopefully being a partner with him in please God, having children and fulfilling his mitzvah to bring life into the world, to know what it is to be a creator with a partner. It takes our wives from a wife, it brings her to the level of a temple, to a bayit, to a beautiful Shekhinah, to a beautiful dwelling of Hashem that she is, that sometimes she's asa to you, sometimes she's so holy that she's forbidden to you. And your longing should be for her and to make her happy and to have a complete, wholesome love of her and her talents and every part of her personality, not just the physical area. And by keeping ourselves in line with these laws, with these traditions, with our laws and halachot, we're able to live life in so much more of a full way and in a beautiful way that is fitting and holy. And I hope this has been a nice short introduction, and within the next day I will post a short thing upon the laws of checking and the counting. Thank you.